Ho ho ho! Welcome everyone to season 2 of Under the Table, episode 2, brought to you by, well, you, the Storians. Thank you so very much for making this possible here live on Tablestory. We try to bring you the most that we can, not only cool, immersive cinematic TTRPGs, but we got a lot of stuff under our sleeves. But today is a very special day because, well, I get to talk to one of my most favorite people. I look up to them in the industry because they have been doing stuff that'll blow your mind. Yes, all the things that you may not know. Frank here, I used to host a lot of gigs, but you know what? I can always learn stuff. You can always learn stuff in the field, and I've learned so much for our beautiful, amazing guest that we have here today. Multi-talented hostess. Also, not only do they host, also RP, put on a great show, and just a damn good person in general. Welcome to Under the Table, Leah. I was about to say your last name, but I'm gonna let you do that because I was like, is that public knowledge? But it is. But But anyway, welcome to Under the Table, and thank you so very much for joining me today.
Hello, I feel like I'm blushing after the intro. Wow. I don't think I've ever been introduced so loftily. My God. But hello, hi. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to be here. I've been looking from afar at the Under the Table series 1, so when you asked me, I was like, oh, yay.
Oh, it's very nerve-wracking to ask people if they want to be on the show because there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, you're being interviewed. A lot of people are just like, oh, I don't know about that. But I know you are an extraordinary host and you're used to these interview format things. But at the same time, I'm still like, am I important enough to ask the Leah? So
Stop it.
I'm so happy to have you here today because we never really got to sit down and really have a good talk. I mean, you think about it, it's really rare that you sit down and have like a 2-hour talk with someone.
Yeah,
so,
especially in 2024.
In 2024.
Like, you're lucky to get 10 minutes with someone.
Yeah, what is social interaction these days?
I know.
Yeah, so we're gonna start off with our tradition, the drink of the week. Leah, what did you bring for your drink of the week?
I bought in my D&D tankard that I definitely shouldn't have. Guinness, a pint of Guinness.
A pint of Guinness. Is that your favorite go-to? Is that your go-to drink when you go out?
That's my casual go-to drink, yeah.
Are you a sipper or are you a gulper?
A sipper, especially with Guinness. Guinness is heavy.
It's pretty heavy. Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Do you like to drink it with foods or you is that your naked drink?
I love it whenever, to be honest. It's so filling that you can just have it on its own. But I am a lightweight, so doing that is risky.
Got you. Do you like it chilled, I assume, correct?
Oh, yeah, you gotta have it chilled.
Yeah, so does Guinness get kind of like, when it starts getting room temperature? Do you add ice? Like, what do you do?
Oh, no, I feel like adding ice, you will probably get a lot of very angry Irishmen at your door. You start adding ice to Guinness.
She added ice here.
Oh my God, what is she doing? But no, yeah, just you enjoy the experience as it warms, the flavors come out. You really should finish it before it gets too warm.
Yeah. That's
what are you doing?
I can't. Yeah, the room temperature stuff scares me sometimes. I mean, I can't even do it with wine, to be honest with you. I have to have it chilled. Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah.
Unless it's a Pinot. No, if it's lightweight, then I can do it. But if red wines, nah, those bad boys have to be chilled. They're too bitter.
Can't be doing the red wine. No, just in general, no red wine. Yeah. What are you drinking?
Yes, well, since I had a very amazing classy guest, I had to have something very classy myself. Yeah, this looks very posh. It's a 1792 Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. This bad boy will put you on your back if you're not gentle with it. It has nice curvatures on the bottle. I just say, it's very impressive looking. And no, I did not drink this much. I was explaining to Miss Leah that I did not go ham on this. You guys one time had me on the show. Don't think that I'm like, no. My dad, I cracked this open for Super Bowl with my father, and he really wanted to try it, and we both tried it together, and we dabbed and drank, and we both looked at each other like, whew, wow, that's good, and it turned from like a, oh my God, this is whiskey burn to whoa, that's smooth. This is very, very good. So 1792. It's not that cheap, by the way, but it's very, very good. And it'll last you a very long time if you're the only one drinking it, by the way, unless you give your father like something. He put it in a couple flasks. That's why it's not there. But yeah, this says it's a small batch. I hate to see what a big batch looks like. This is huge. So it says, named in honor of the year Kentucky joined the United States in 1792, small batch bourbon is made from a marriage of a few select barrels carefully chosen out by our master distiller. This refined bourbon elevates Kentucky distilling to exceptional new heights, celebrated by whiskey connoisseurs worldwide. The subtleties of the 1792 make it incomparably brass and bold, yet smooth and balanced. And they nailed it.
Oh yeah, it feels
very
bold,
smooth and balanced.
Okay.
Yes.
You did say you have to be gentle with it. Are you being gentle with it tonight?
I am very much being gentle because
it is a Thursday.
46.85% alcohol by volume and 93.7% proof. This bad boy is
That's a lot.
It's a doozy.
That'll do it.
And it looks great. It's golden in the glass. I have one giant ice cube because if it does get watered down, it doesn't get completely destroyed. And
it's like nice golden color as well.
It's very nice. It's very smooth.
Honey gold.
That quick sip that I took is all you want to do. Okay? Don't.
I feel like I need to class up my offering now.
No, I think the Guinness that it works. I like the black with the black. It works really well. So there you go. There's a drink of the week. And if anybody tries 1792 or Guinness, please tell us what you think in the Discord channel under the table. And I'd like to preface this whole thing by saying, if you have a question for Miss Leah, please go to the Discord, place them in there. At the end of the episode or whenever she's free, she'll be able to give you all the answers she needs.
Yes.
All right, I gotta get in the habit of doing it.
In fact.
So what now?
I'll give you more answer than you want. I will give you so much.
Yes. I gotta get in the habit of doing this because we are in 2024. Your pronouns.
Oh yes. She, her.
Thank you. All right, very good. Very good. I just want to make sure because, we're all learning things as years go by, and I want to make sure I am very respectful for everyone. Now, though you don't need it, we like to start off the section with a icebreaker, something to loosen you up. But your section today, because you are so special, is going to be called a myth buster.
Ooh, okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
I have been told up and down from the mountaintops that every time I say Leah, everyone's like, no, it's Leah. I'm like, no, it's Leah. Believe me. No, I know. It's Leah. She said it. I was like, So I would like for you to start with the icebreaker. Leah, what's the whole myth behind this whole thing, and can you crack it for us?
Well, I feel like I don't have a satisfying, simple answer to this because, unfortunately, when my mum birthed me and gave me the name, she did intend for me to be called Leah. But as I've gone on through my life, everyone just calls me Leah, and eventually she gave up. So yeah, by the age of like 3 or something, she was like, right, fine, whatever. She's called Leah, whatever. At least that's how I recall her recounting it to me. So yeah. I personally, I don't have any preference. In fact, as I get older, I start to enjoy the name Leah more than I used to. I used to be very like, not keen, but I don't know, I'm appreciating it more. So yeah.
I really like Leah.
You don't hear that pronunciation of it very often, actually.
You don't.
Where I live, anyway.
Yeah, and same here. A lot of people just go with Lee for everything that's L-E version, but the L-E-A leads you to the Lay and Leah, who's completed with the H.
Fun fact, the name Leah, or Leah, apparently, traced back, does mean weak-sighted. And I am blind in my left eye.
Whoa.
So, maybe a little bit of manifest destiny, who knows?
Wow. Okay. Well, dang. We'll just say that I'm a Star Wars nerd, so Leia's always going to be one of my favorite stuff. But no, I think Leia fits you to the glove. I think it's a very beautiful name. But
I always thought I could be an Erin. I was like,
with an E or an A.
Ooh, I think probably an E. That's how I always imagined it. But I feel like either would work. Yeah.
Erin, I could see that. See that.
Same energy.
Yeah, same energy. Yeah, it definitely gives that. I like to sometimes joke when someone says, "Oh, can you go grab deodorant?" I was like, "Oh, the deodorante." Okay. Sometimes I always like to put like Target's Tarjay for me. Yeah. I like to put a little spin on it just because it's fun. But I love Leia. But which one would you rather be called?
Let's go with Leia, shall we?
Yes, I won.
Life.
all of you. No, I'm just kidding. Leah, I love it. Gives me tingles. All right, so Leah from now on. But don't be afraid if you call her Leah. She still will answer you. So, so it's just Anyway, moving on. Well, welcome to Under the Table. And as I told you 1,000 times before, for those that don't know, the reason why it's called Under the Table because we're typically above the table. We're typically doing TTRPGs and doing shows, and you don't really get to know us. You know our characters very well, and you might get a little bit of us through green rooms that you can get on our merch store. So check that out later. There will be an advertisement video at the end of the episode, so you can see the green rooms. But beside that, it all comes down to it. We like to get a little deep. We like to go under the table, get to know the person that you have been just loving in character for so long. And again, thank you for being here. So we're gonna go ahead and start creeping under the table. I shouldn't say creeping, that's weird. But you know what I mean. Anyway,
it is under the table in the law.
yeah, going under the table. So Leah, growing up, have you I assume you were born and raised in the EU. Am I saying that right? Because everybody's like EU, UK, two different things. So
well, EU, European Union.
Yeah.
I technically was born and raised in the European Union, but yeah, UK specifically.
Okay, UK specifically. Tell me about it. Tell me about growing up as you're not a newborn child, fresh out of the womb. How was it? No, it's more so like growing up there and doing some self-discovery at a young age. How was that for you?
Yeah, well, so I grew up in Blackpool, which is unfortunately, if you're from the area, it's not meant to be an insult, but it is factually one of the most poverty-stricken areas of the UK. So I grew up near Blackpool in a small town, and my family was not particularly well off. So, you know, for a start, you're kind of already battling the odds with, you know, I really wanted to do performing. I was always very much into performing. Like from when I was a child, I'd always be putting on little shows, you know, for your parents. You're putting on magic shows, you're putting on concerts and all that kind of thing, like all the time, every single day. And I always wanted to do that kind of thing, but I was very much, you know, we couldn't really afford acting lessons or anything like that. You're very much at the mercy of whatever community based clubs and things that are available for you to access, and that really wasn't an option for me. So I was very fortunate in that I got pretty good grades at school. So very American term, I got good grades at school. I was a decent at exams and stuff like that. So I didn't, academically I did perform quite well. So I got very much shoehorned into doing more academic subjects throughout my life. But I always wanted to perform. That was always my number one thing. It was like, it was always what I got the most joy out of doing, was just learning, performing, and growing as a performer in every aspect.
Excellent. Now, as performing, you mean like theater or singing or
everything,
anything?
Yeah, I always loved it, and it's always been a big bugbear of mine that I never stuck to one thing. I never like really pursued one avenue. I never pursued theater. I never pursued you know, music particularly enough to grow anywhere with it. And that always bothered me quite a lot, because that is my biggest regret, I think.
Right. Okay. You know, you have a lovely background, as I so say. You're very well put together. You have very nice lighting. I see some instruments back there, some lighting, some everything like that. You know, so, you know, the funny thing is like you brought that with you. I think that's very interesting, because as a child growing up, that stuff stuck with you. And that's something that's very hard to hold on to, because a lot of people are told when they're younger, like, oh, you need to do something that makes you money. You know, you need to think about the future. You're like, no.
Yeah, I went backwards.
No, no, I'm not saying that. She's like, well, I did. No. So the thing is, you holding on to your dreams for so long, that's an achievement in by itself.
Yeah, I kind of, throughout most of my adulthood, at least, I was like, how do I make what am I passionate about, and how do I make that work for me? And that's how I ended up doing most of the stuff I'm doing, and streaming, and the sort of unexpected independence that streaming gave me enabled me to then pursue these other avenues. And you know, if it wasn't for streaming, I wouldn't be probably playing D&D. I wouldn't even really have access to anything. I don't think like this at all. So very fortunate.
Yeah. You know, it brings up a very interesting question for me to ask you, is that if you weren't doing any of this stuff, what do you see yourself doing?
That's it's always been the hardest question to answer. So I went to university for psychology.
Oh.
My life is a mess. Like I've done so many random things. I went to university to study psychology in education, and I left after a few months because I was just really not vibing with university. I decided to take a year out, and I started working for my partner at the time, and we traveled in the World Championship motocross tournament. So we would do World Championship motocross, and every weekend would be a different country, and we would film. So I became a videographer and photographer through that. So that was like a few years of my life was doing that and event management for motocross events. And I got at one point asked to join the motocross championship organizer. They were like, hey, do you want a job with us and come and help organize events with us? And I was like, it would require probably having to learn Italian because most of them were Italian, and B, traveling a lot, and more than I already was. And I felt like I just couldn't. I was young. I was only like about 20 at the time.
I was gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt. I mean, I still feel now. That was like years and years ago, and I still feel like a child. Like I still feel like if I was asked now, oh my god, I don't feel adult enough to do that.
Yeah, that's strange how that works.
Yeah, so then I did that, and then eventually started streaming as a means to like perform, really, and that took off for me. So I think I'm kind of doing what I want to do. Like if this wasn't working out, I'm trying to do now what I would want to be doing.
Yes.
Like streaming for me was my whole career for many years, and I got kind of burned out on it. I stopped enjoying purely streaming because I was just doing it I was clocking in every day and streaming because I had to, right? And I just didn't got to the point where I lost the passion, I lost the joy in it. I really lost myself. So I took a little bit of time away from that, and now I'm writing a book and I like pursuing every hobby that I can that interests me, and that's what I'd be doing, I suppose. But if I had to pick something to make me money right now, I'd really struggle. I think. It's a very challenging time, and I think often if I had to apply for jobs, what would I even start applying for right now? And I don't have a clue.
Not at all.
Clue. No, I think often I'm naturally quite bossy. I would probably fit into a managerial position quite easily if given the opportunity to. So I think about that sometimes. I thought about going into the gaming industry as a producer, but it's so volatile. I don't think it would realistically work out.
I mean, it's showing its ugly side right now in the gaming industry. Well, and then I try to explain that to people is that this is normal. We just don't hear about it as often. People are a lot more vocal, but the gaming industry went from $1 million industry to $1 billion industry during really hard times. Everyone was consuming content because that's all they could do. And now that people are just like, screw it, I don't care if COVID's out there, I'm going out anyway. Now it's taking a relapse and it's technically going back to where the industry was before. And, a lot of hiring happened during those times. And it's a scary thing to think about, But
yeah, 100%. I mean, Maya and I have a podcast we do most Mondays where we talk about the gaming industry, and it's a topic that comes up frequently because, we saw huge booms during COVID. And unfortunately, they had to hire to work with those booms, and now we're seeing the obvious decline because and it's not even a decline really. It's not. Like realistically, it was still above where we were, but it's a decline compared to projections, I guess.
Right, it's all happening at once, so it looks scary. It's kind of like how the crypto failure was happening, and then those banks were freaking out, which made our banks freak out. This is weird, but going back to following your dreams and stuff like that. It's very interesting to me that you held on to it, and you just had this really large opportunity that a lot of people may jump for, honestly, because I don't think people think about the stuff that you thought about. I think you were way more mature in your 20s or at the 20 age than most people would have been, because a lot of people would have just jumped face first into something like that. Because how cool does it sound to say I was I worked for the motocross, like the biggest league ever, and did this, and it's all glitz and glamour, but are you really happy? A lot of people don't ask that question at that age. So what made you really reflect on your inner happiness at that point?
I mean, I'd left university because I was quite depressed, and I think that immediately put a new perspective on everything I was doing. And I was also terrified. Like I just felt so was in a really weird time in my life, right? I didn't have much independence. I didn't have any money to my name. I was very much dependent on the people I was living with, which was my ex-partner. And I was working hard a lot, but I just didn't really have much to show for it. And I suppose I just didn't feel ready for that level of independence. I didn't believe in myself that I could do that job well enough. Even though I'd pretty much been headhunted. Like, they'd asked me to come and join them. I just didn't have the confidence in myself then to do it. And I look back and I think, man, my life would have been entirely different if I had taken that job.
Yeah.
110%. And I do look back at it sometimes, but it was also, it felt dangerous. I was young and I would have been out there alone. I didn't know anybody. It would have been a very isolating job for me. So I think that was what put me off in the end.
Yeah. Hey, I think you made a very responsible decision. You were thinking about your well-being. You were thinking about, like, is this something that I really want to pursue? It may sound good on paper, but is it really something that defines who Leah is? And so I applaud you for that, because I think I would have been the weird one to probably just jump because I want to feel important, because growing up, you're always, because you're always told that you need to shoot for the moon, and go for this. And sometimes that's not the best stuff for you. Sometimes you need to kind of grow up on your own pace and then figure it out.
I felt like my life was so random up to that point. So many random things had happened to me. I felt so disjointed. And that's been something that's carried on throughout my whole life, just feeling this sense of you're never comfortable. You're never able to just settle down and do something. It's always been a case of gotta keep moving on. And for me, that just, I was not ready to handle a commitment like that either, I think, because that would have been quite a commitment. So.
Yeah, it's quite scary sounding. The title might sound good, but the inner workings is like, oh.
And I think, I would have learned a lot, and that makes me sad in a way. I wish I know what I would have learned. Just out of curiosity more than anything.
Yeah. It's always good to reflect on it, but the knowledge that you gained thus far probably would have been lost, so it's a trade-off, it's just kind of like a risk and reward type situation. Now, you brought up something very interesting. You feel like at the age now you still feel like a child. I vibe with that. I do not feel like an adult. My dad is a man, it's funny to think when he was my age, the stuff he was doing, and I'm just I'm sitting here playing video games, and I'm hosting events. But at the end of the day, I guess we can vibe with the idea that we are what we feel, and age is just really a number at the end of the day. Who is to define what is it to be an adult, at the end of the day?
Yeah, and it's so funny because I think you hear that a lot when you're 16, 17. Our age is just a number, and you're like, shut up, you're an adult. And then you get to your mid-20s. I'm 30 now, and I'm like, God, it really doesn't stop, does it? There's never a point in your life where you stop and just feel like, I'm an adult and I can handle life. You don't, it's just a constant. That is kind of the turning point for me, was realizing that, I just have to act. My whole life, I'm just acting at being, professional or being good at this job. And you're just playing pretend most of the time and selling that confidence to other people. And that's, I think some people do feel maybe like they're adults and they're prepared to take on the world and I know what I'm doing. I know this is my role in life. But I do think a lot of people feel similarly, which is just, I've got to put my brave face on now and go and do whatever it is. And he's doing in the world right now.
Very good. Well put. I think we tend to put on our adult hats when we have to. And you know what? I don't want to be an adult 24/7. I want to cut loose and feel like I don't have a worry in the world. We often joke sometimes. I'm like, man, if I can go back and just do chores, I'm good. Back then I didn't understand.
When you were 12 years old doing chores, you wanted nothing more than to be an adult with your own money.
Right? The many times I was like, I can't wait to get out. I can't. And I'm like, please take me back.
I could go out and get ice cream whatever hour I want to. And now I'm like, I could go get ice cream, but also I don't want to leave the house. So.
It's funny,
Crazy.
but when you do the adult things like get a car or buy a house or an apartment or whatever, and you're spending your own money, you're paying your own bills, then it starts to click a little bit, and you start saying, all right,
to realize how tenuous your whole life is. Your whole life is a house of cards, and it can literally fall at any moment due to anything. And that, I feel there's a little bit more safety you get being British, that's for sure. Like, and you know, I say it with no malice, but certainly it feels a lot less secure being American, just based on the amount of liabilities you have to deal with, like on a day-by-day basis.
Yes,
it's terrifying. At least there's a tiny bit more security in the UK, but yeah, for the large part, it's just, it often scares me how, and this is really pessimistic sounding, and I'm so sorry. I know this is really negative.
Please continue.
But, like, you could get into a car accident tomorrow and your life would change forever. And I often think, like, if that happened to me, would I just be, have I taken life by the face and like grabbed it and gone, get everything I possibly can out of my own life so far? Or have I been spending my whole life waiting for the perfect moment or whatever?
Beautiful.
But yeah, slight tangent.
No, I completely agree. Tomorrow's not promised. It's reality. You know, at the end of the day, tomorrow's not promised. Anything can happen. Heck, the next second is not promised. Anything can happen at any moment. The worst thing that we could leave this earth with is regret. Right? It's like, I should have done, I should have said. You know, we often only worry about regret when things already have happened and not prepped before. So I think that's a very good life lesson you just threw out there. So take that, everyone. Make sure you put it in your pocket, put it in your gear, all right? Put it in your backpack. And because that's a very, very well put, Leah. And
the best thing you could possibly do is build up your toolbox for life, right? Is build up all of these tools you have and keep working on whatever interests you, whatever you've got time to work on, whatever you're good at. Keep working on it regardless, because like every single day is exhausting, right? And you might be absolutely worn out from, you know, your job. And a lot of people, I've worked in retail, like I've had that experience as well. Like I've had some really soul-sucking jobs in my time, and I had totally it's really hard to have the motivation to do anything with your spare time because you're just recovering. You're like just trying to recover from constant but if you can motivate yourself to improve your life, to improve your skills and stuff, it's hard to have regrets going forward because you've done everything you can do in the moment, right?
Yep. Well put. Damn right, I like to so say. So growing up in the UK, and you've been to America many a times. This is quite different. So can you give me a brief, like how do you feel about the two instances of being in UK versus America? And is there any overlap for you in there when it comes to your entertainment business?
Elaborate more. What do you mean by that?
Yes. So you have dreams and hopes. In America, people are big dreamers, right? This place is known for being the place of dreams and the American dream, which if you're here, you know what that means. But you know, everyone wants to be a superstar actor and everyone wants to make the big top dollar. You know, people don't really enjoy life. To them, enjoying life is having the most money possible. And then when they get there, a lot of big actors tend to be depressed because they're alone.
Yeah.
So is that the same kind of thing that happens over in the UK? Because I mean, we have a lot of British actors here. I mean, I would say majority of our big actors are from over there, and being able to build on that dream, okay, that you were having versus the American dream what's the difference in UK when it comes to that dream aspect? Is it similar or is it different?
I have two thoughts on this, and I don't want to get too much on my soapbox. But part of this, for me at least, is due to an individualistic culture, of which I'm definitely a victim. I don't want to say victim of, but certainly like I myself propagate whatever that individualistic culture teaches you to, which is, you know, you're looking for your dream.
Yes.
You are working towards your dream doggedly, and what you should be doing is putting your all into getting to this dream, and that's that. And you will, I think there's a high level of loneliness involved with achieving that, because to get there, you've had to forsake everything else. You've had to forsake so much experience, so much living to get to that point to succeed. And I think that's probably the same for most forms of success, because the only way to really prepare yourself to be successful is to have time being successful. And then if you don't have that time, then you're thrust into the limelight, and that's terrifying and comes with its own set of challenges. But certainly when you're like, you know, looking to live the dream, it is a very individualistic thing, and it very much pushes away what I feel like I'm coming to terms with more and more, which is that human beings need community. Human beings need social interaction. They need regular community, and that you can get a taste of that. You can get a fraction of that experience online, but you do need it in real life as well. It's so important to like have that. And when you're constantly chasing the dream, you lose your community, you lose, you know, your tribe or whatever, and then you're left with nothing. And even if you do succeed, what have you got to show for it? And then obviously there's so many pitfalls at that point of success, and people using you, and you know, all sorts of problems there. But I do think that's part of the issue, really. But I also I feel like I've never tried super hard to, this is gonna sound horrific, super hard to succeed. Like success was never my goal ever. My goal has always been, how can I improve my skills and be the best version of whatever I'm trying to do at the time? And how do I just continue eking out an existence? So I've been so insanely lucky over the, you know, last, you know, 6 or so years where I've made money because of streaming and presenting and sponsored stuff. And I've been quite careful with my money because I know that, like, I'm not looking for a lavish lifestyle. I'm not looking for like, so I don't have a nice car. I don't have really, I spend a bit of money on, like, you know, tech maybe. But for the most part, I don't really, success for me would be largely measured in fulfillment. And if I feel fulfilled by my life because I know that I've worked towards making my skills at the best level they can be and constantly striving for better for myself, then that is success to me. And of course, I need money to survive.
Yes,
so
don't we
I do
all?
have to keep working, right? Like you do, it's obviously going to be an element of that always. Like you always need to keep figuring out how you're going to get money and get cash in to keep that, give yourself the privilege of being able to actually help yourself grow, right, as a person. Because you can't really, you know, hierarchy of needs or whatever, even though that is kind of all crap. But like you need to at least have security in what, you know, your life and having food on the table before you can start working on yourself as a person. Otherwise, you know, you don't have much there. Priorities. But yeah, I think that just about answered your question. Hopefully, in a really roundabout way.
my Kevin Hart moment. Damn, you murdered that question. Yes, that's very. I'm getting to learn a lot about you. You are super mature, and that is wild. How you the view on life is so good. I think people are gonna get a lot out of this episode because people don't think about that. When they say success, they think about the dollar amount. When people think success in streaming, they think about the viewer count. It's all about the numbers. But at the end of the day, are you really happy? Do you get to talk about your success to someone that's close to you? Doesn't have to be a partner. You know, it could be a friend or whatever. Do you get that pleasure of having someone ask you how your day was? That to me is the ultimate prize at the end of the goal, I should say, is that
do you feel proud? Do you feel proud of yourself? Have you done something that makes you feel proud? And this is why it's a really powerful thing, a meditation thing almost, to every single day find anything that you feel proud of, and it's something I really struggle with because I've done a lot of, honestly, objectively really cool things in my career. Like I had some insane opportunities, and I've never ever been able to just sit back and feel proud of myself. I've never been able to just sit there and be like, you know what, that was really cool, you earned it. Because I don't know, in a lot of this industry, I feel like earning is a very subjective concept. You know, I don't feel like I've earned it. I feel like I've been very lucky in a lot of regards, and I've worked hard on myself in a lot of ways to get to the point where I can cope with whatever is happening. But certainly it's something I still work on now, is the fact that I don't feel like I'm proud of anything I've done. I never feel like promoting anything I've ever done because I'm always like, could do better though, couldn't you? And that's toxic. That's not good. Like, that's not something I wish to promote as a good thing by any means, because it's not, and it's certainly like a long-term project, really. I do shy away from myself a lot.
Well, I'm gonna drink to that.
Cheers to that, yeah.
Cheers to that. Because I feel the same way. I do not take a compliment well at all. You compliment me, I'm like,
yeah,
really?
Literally. Talking about me?
I might be a different person. I don't know, yeah. So, but you know, that's gonna great transition to the next call. We're gonna talk about all the accomplishments you've had, and all the stuff that I have grown to inspire. Now, everyone, for those that don't know, I said she was a very multi-talented, but very talented host. Yes. Leah has been on so many things on camera, too much to count for, but notably, anytime Leah's on the camera, the whole scene lights up. There's a reason why she has been chosen for so many things. You might have seen her at award shows. You may have seen her introduced to some of your favorite video games and talk to your favorite devs. Always on top of her game. I personally have witnessed, and I have taken so much, no matter how many projects I have worked on in my life. Sometimes you just look at someone that is a master of their craft and you can notice it. And Leah, you have been a master of your craft. The one thing that I love about what you do on camera is the fact that you have body language. And this is something that a lot of people do not know how to incorporate. Using your hands, using your emotions, showing all of your excitement, even when you speak to may not be even the most lively person across the way. What grabbed Leah into the world of hosting, and how the hell did you become so damn good at it?
Ooh, so I was streaming for quite a couple of years, and then I did a promotional thing for Xbox UK. It was, I believe, a controller back when they brought out the design lab thing where you can make your own controller. I did a promotional thing for that, and they, you know, I got to know some of the people there and we got along, and then I got to do a really cool event in Seattle, which was an escape room for the release of State of Decay 2. So I got to, it was the highest paid thing I'd ever done. I got paid to go to Seattle, and it was a really last minute thing for me. I think someone must have dropped out or something. And they paid me to go there, and they had this entire, the irrelevant backstory probably.
No,
but
please
anyway.
give it. This
They
is good
set
stuff.
up an entire zombie-themed escape room inside a facility for the mentally unwell, which is relevant in a moment because as we're doing it, it's like an abandoned sort of place, right? And it all looks really cool, and we're in there for quite a few hours. There's cameras everywhere. We're all running around trying to do this escape room, and eventually we complete it. And we get out, and we've torn the place apart, right? As you kind of sort of do in escape rooms, you're kind of like looking for clues everywhere.
Yeah.
So we're looking for clues everywhere, and we get out, and they're like, yeah, that's actually an active place, by the way. It's an active ward, and there were patients walking around outside as we were doing this. I can't even imagine.
Oh my God, like real
being
patients?
An actual
Holy moly.
hospital. And feeling mentally unstable, and then being faced with a real life zombie apocalypse scene inside the ward that you're familiar with.
Oh my goodness.
I was horrified. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? But anyway, yeah, so I worked with Xbox, and then as I was in Seattle, I was hanging out with the guys there, and they mentioned that one of their hosts was leaving soon for their YouTube channel, and they want to move into streaming, and they were interested in perhaps having me audition to be a full-time host and streamer for them. So, I'd been growing my stream for a while, and they wanted somebody who was quite experienced. And this was a mixer, was just sort of on the up and up. They wanted someone experienced to help develop their UK Xbox mixer channel. So I went and I auditioned, and I got the call that I'd got the job. And so I started working full-time for Xbox UK. So this was just, I don't want to say this as like a humble brag, but like, I didn't do any presenting. I streamed. I was a streamer, and I've always been a streamer. And the closest thing I've ever got to presenting before that was I did all the readings at school. Every school assembly, I went to a Catholic school. Every school assembly, I'd be doing all of the readings. I got to be the voice of God at one point. I was always asked to do it because, I do speak quite quickly, especially when I get excited. But when I slow down, for whatever reason, I was trusted to do that a lot. So that was my only experience. And then the Xbox hired me, and I started doing all of their YouTube content. So if you go back to Xbox UK stuff from like 2019, 2020, my face will be all over. You'll see me everywhere. I built up their streaming channel, and as part of my work with Xbox UK, I got to host the Xbox Gamescom live show, which is it's a pretty major show.
Yeah.
It was, I was looking into all of the new games that were coming out over the next year, and I got to interview a bunch of devs and stuff there. I went to E3, and I was working on the mixer stage, which was truthfully one of the hardest things I've done, based on just the atmosphere.
Yeah, E3 is hard.
It's very hard. It's very hectic. And I had an ear infection as well, which didn't help anything. There was one point I woke up 15 minutes before I was supposed to be due on stage, and that, if you've ever worked in a host, you know that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I had to run. Luckily the hotel was next to the convention center, but I was in the middle of LA. I had an ear infection. I felt horrific, and I had to run out of the hotel straight to the makeup tent. Hope that they could just powder me slightly. I looked horrendous, and then just run to the stage. And I had no preparation because I didn't know who I was interviewing till about 10 minutes before every interview, and I had about 5 interviews a day live. God. So, and it was a really loud tent, a lot going on. The earpieces kept cutting out. So it was honestly horrendous just in terms of circumstance. It was, everything that could go wrong was going wrong that day. But I got through it, and it was, in the end, it was okay. It was not a great look, but it is what it is.
You got through it.
But yeah, and then I left Xbox just before COVID. It was literally the December before COVID. And I started doing a lot of freelance hosting work off the back of that. So yeah, all came from working at Xbox, which came from a very lucky... this industry is 1010% who you know, every single time, every step of the way. So, and I'm a very antisocial person, so I really have to force myself to go meet people. But it does go a long way to helping you.
Yeah. Along with your reputation and along with a spot of luck. Luck plays a big role in a lot of things 100%. We do. But no, it's been a pleasure seeing you on stage. It's been a pleasure seeing you on events and seeing you light up. You know, that's one thing I could say is that when I got into hosting, I was just a streamer as well, funny enough. And I went to TwitchCon, the first TwitchCon, I think it was 2015 or 2014, can't remember. And I saw DJ Wheat and Anna Prosser on the stage and how emotional they got at the end of it. And I was like, that could be me. I want to do this. So I bugged the hell out of them until they gave me an audition. And they were like, we're going to hold a hosting class. And I was like, great. And then like one of the biggest hosting, CSA is like one of the biggest hosting companies down here, noticed me. And I got on a plane. I was sitting next to this old woman. And I got a phone call on the plane. It was getting ready to take off. I did not turn my phone off. And they were like, hey, you want to host PAX East? I was like, the whole thing? They're like, absolutely. And I was like, ah! the lady was like, oh my God, like freaking out next to me. And I was just, I'm so sorry. She was like, are you okay? Help. And I was like, no, I'm not going to rob you. And like, you know, it was just bad. It was horrible. I almost got kicked off the plane. It was really the steward. I had explained to the stewards, I just got a job that I wanted for a long time. It was horrible. So yeah, different entry, but you know,
just as exciting.
Yeah, just as exciting, you know, and it's great that we both are here. You know, let's go ahead and go into the nitty gritty here. I mean, hosting. So you went through all these things. You went through the motorsports thing. It wasn't it. You went through college. Well, first college, it wasn't it. And motorsports, it wasn't it. Then you got into streaming and you're like, okay, yeah, I can feel it. And then you got into hosting and I'm assuming it just lit you up. And you're like, I'm doing all the things that I'm doing. I'm hosting, I'm performing, I'm doing this. Not to go too deep, but those things are really hard to ask the people that kind of, you know, most people think that matters. Like the question always pops up is like, how does your friends and family take this stuff? You know, this stuff was brand new back then and it wasn't just the norm. How did that go?
Yeah, definitely not the norm. And I remember being so shocked when I first started on Twitch and I was like, oh my God, like people are asking me to set up a tip button. Like what?
Yeah.
Like my mind was blown. Yeah, I was like, what? People actually want to like tip me for streaming? Are you kidding me? What? And I remember people had to like ask me to set one up and it blew my mind. And I remember going to my friends and being like, people are actually like, they paid me for streaming. I can't believe it. Like my mind was so like overwhelmed by it. And this was such a big deal to me because I was in debt. I had no money. I had less than no money. I was in such a horrific place. I was in even more debt because we'd just been promised a job for the motocross, a huge motocross magazine that I think no longer exists. But they were supposed to be paying us to do most of the GPs and film stuff for them, and that fell through. That was my first taste of like, oh, you know, in this space, things fall through quite a lot, and you really can't get too excited about anything because you can get the best email in the world, and it's like your dreams are coming true in this email, and you're like, but you just know that in reality, most of it's probably going to fall through.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is, unfortunately. But yes, so I've gone on a tangent and I've forgotten.
It's okay.
Oh
no,
yeah, so my mum has always been super proud of me. She has always been a big cheerleader of mine, and I've had the chance to involve her in sponsor stuff I've done as well, which has been amazing. I did a thing for Cadbury, which is the chocolate maker in the UK, the major one, I guess. Yeah, a couple years back during COVID, they paid my mum to.
Wait, the bunny people?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we know the bunny people here in America. We just call it bunnies. And we got
Cadbury's chocolate.
Yes. Awesome.
Yes, they. I got to teach my mom how to play Street Fighter. I don't know how to play Street Fighter.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. I love Street Fighter.
And then she had to take part in a tournament with a bunch of celebrities and stuff. Yeah, she was fantastic, and it was really, really cool. But yeah, so I got to involve her in things as well, like that. So she's always been really proud of me.
That's so awesome. I'm loving this talk. You have such a cool life so far. It's just so awesome.
It's so weird. It's just a series of random things happening.
Hey, sometimes that's great to have, not knowing what's going to happen. But I agree with you. I do not get excited about anything until I'm signing that contract.
Oh yeah.
That way, when the contract breaks, I get something.
But there's a real problem in all creative industries where you will get the sickest opportunity and you will be like, this is the coolest thing. But then by the time it's confirmed, which can take months, you're not excited anymore because you've already been able to come to terms with it. So then you can't tell anyone about it most of the time. You're under heavy NDA.
Yep.
You can't talk about anything you're doing. And so by the time it gets to the point where people can see it, you're like, this is 2 years old news. I've moved on. This isn't exciting to me anymore. And I think that doesn't help with that whole being proud of yourself thing, because you are just constantly looking for the next thing because you have to, right?
Yes, I call it the invisible ceiling. It's always there, and every time you hit that peak and you don't ever acknowledge it, right? Like I hosted E3. That's great. Okay, on to the next. And just like you don't take time to acknowledge, like I hosted freaking E3. It's always been a job that I wanted ever since I was a kid. I remember seeing blah, blah, blah. You never reflect on that stuff. You reflect on it when you want to do it, but when you do it, you're just like, I did I can do better. That's my biggest problem. But anyway, breaking that down, the whole thing. Okay, so everyone is like, people accepted it. That was great. Like your mom is very proud of you. Your friends were just like, that's nuts, probably. Like, oh my God, you get paid to do this. So, COVID came into play, and it's a very rough time for everybody. Everything that you ever known has changed. Social interactions, when they were already bad, was worse. Or maybe better for us, because I think the introverts shined.
Oh yeah, we
were like, home, yes.
Nothing changed.
If anything, it got better. But so how was that time for you? Did you hit that block? I hit a block myself. I was just like, I don't know what to do anymore. How did that change, and how did you cope with it?
I feel bad talking about COVID stuff because I had such a different experience for COVID, and I'm so aware of it.
I think that's okay, though. I think that's really okay to have different experiences.
Well, I just left Xbox, and I just got a job for Forza. So I've been hosting Forza Monthly, which is a Forza racing video game. They have a monthly live stream that they did just to latest updates and stuff to the game. And they asked me to host it after I'd left Xbox, and I was like, yeah, amazing. So the first show, I was due to fly out to Seattle and do the first show there, and then COVID hit. And it was literally the day before I was supposed to fly out was the day that basically all of Seattle shut down, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna have to cancel. So I was like, oh, not my first proper gig outside of working for Xbox, and it's been immediately stopped. So that sucked. But I was pretty scared because I'd just come out of working for Xbox, and when I did, Xbox was a very intense job for me. It was 5 days of streaming on the Xbox channel, as well as scripting every single day and making YouTube videos for their YouTube channel, and then hosting those as well. So it's very full on, like every single day, and I was commuting a lot. Like I was up at 7 a.m. to get to the office for 9:30, and then working until 6 p.m. and then home at like 8 if I was lucky. So it was a really full on schedule for me. And then I was also trying to keep my own personal channel alive. So I would try and stream some evenings when I could, but most of the time I was trying to stream on my channel in the weekends. So you just got to the point where I never had a day off. I was constantly working, and whatever you want to call it, like working, but working in an office for Xbox, it's a lot. It's full work.
That's work.
And then the weekends, just never having an evening to yourself, never having time to just relax. It did catch up with me eventually. So yeah, I came into COVID, and I was scared. I was really stressed because I was like, I've just quit Xbox, and I think I will be okay. But I'm also kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. I don't have I don't know if I'm going to get paid enough through streaming and freelance work to even make this sustainable right now. So that was my major concern. But I just got a job with Fordzilla. So Ford car manufacturer made an esports team called Fordzilla, and they wanted to do like a grassroots thing where they developed their own racing teams from scratch from local talent, essentially. So I thought that was really cool, and I liked the concept of that a lot. And as I was coming away from Xbox, it was under the knowledge that they were looking at perhaps doing a full year-long thing with me. So I became an ambassador for them and started working a lot with them. So that kind of, lessened some of the financial burden in the beginning. And then as time went on, COVID hit. And I'm in a lucky place as it is in the UK. Like the UK, you're a big fish in a small pond in the UK in the creative industries. So when COVID hit, and I was already super lucky with the contacts I had, I benefited a lot from a lot of the money that was thrown into marketing budgets, because that's where it all went. All the events money went down. There was no events going on. So all this money suddenly was available for games companies, publishers, whatever. All of these Cadbury's to put into marketing online. And that's what they did. They started pouring money into online marketing. So I got super duper lucky, because then throughout the whole of COVID, I was an established face in the UK scene, and I was just getting a lot of deals. I was getting a lot of brand deals around that time, a lot of sponsorships. It was a very and I saved it all because I knew it wouldn't last forever. So I made sure I saved every penny I could, and I have. Because you kind of have to. It's not going to be consistent, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I don't like talking about it because I feel horrific, because COVID was an awful time for a lot of people, and I was isolated. When you're a streamer, you spend most of your time alone in your office anyway. You know, it's not like it's that strange to be there in the first place. But certainly, it does get to you eventually, that isolation. But I thrived in it. I was kind of like, this is just normal for me anyway. I'm not. It's not that crazy different to me. But I did gain financially from COVID just due to the situation. And I just tried not to take that granted at all, because it's a very strange situation.
It was, and I don't think it's bad to say that you did thrive during that time. I think thriving during hard times can be a light on some dark areas for people. Some people had very dark times during that time, but at the same time, we got to keep living. And there's a lot of dark times that happened pre-COVID. Lots of dark times. People just didn't talk about it or didn't see it because we weren't sitting behind the screen all the time to see it. Now, that social media has been so in the forefront. Everything, this is where we get our news now, is from social media, which is horrible. It's horrible. Not a newspaper anymore. We social media. People now it's a rat's race of who can put out the most misinformation to get the most interaction, right? So, thriving in that, I'm there with you. I thrived hard. Like, the money was there. For the stuff that we did, we were getting paid bukus of dollars just to be able to sit there in front of a camera and provide entertainment. I got the host for the freaking Olympics. I was like, you guys still doing the Olympics? And they were like, hey, we want to come to you for NBC. I was like, huh? What? The Olympics, or is this a different type of, no, I was like, oh God. They were going to fly me out to Japan to do that because they knew I speak Japanese and everything. And I was like, let me go. That's nuts. But the government was like, no. And then they opened it up at the last minute. So they already developed a show for me and Cup of Noodles. So they sent Story Mo Bay out there. And it was glorious seeing the world open up to what we do.
Oh, yeah.
To where we didn't have to explain it.
Appreciate and understand, the tiny things, right? The sales of the webcams we've been using for years, all this little niche bit of technology. Streamers benefited hugely from the amount of technology that was developed during COVID, because everyone's working from home suddenly. And now, God, when I started 9 years ago, there was it was so hard to find specialized streaming stuff, like getting a light for your stream. Like nowadays, I have these little cool little Logitech panels, right? It's so convenient. You think that's existed forever? No, it hasn't. This is so new. All of this
hot
stuff
bulbs.
Here is, you had hot bulbs. You had full umbrella photography, constant, and they got warm, and it was horrendous. And people misused them all the time, and it bothered me. They'd have the light bouncing on them instead of the diffuser. Oh, I didn't understand it. But yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting time, and I think certainly the tech we use has benefited hugely from seeing that work from home environment.
Yeah, and I think everyone can agree, having good times come from bad times is is the recovery phase. So now we're in the recovery phase. Granted, COVID is not going anywhere, and I don't want to make it seem like COVID is not over, people, okay? It's gonna be here probably forever. It's gonna keep mutating, it's gonna keep having all these things. So, but we have to keep going on. We can't stop our lives. So with that recovery phase coming in, people are knowing what streaming is. People are knowing what hosting is. And CPAs are finally like happy to do your taxes. You know, so everything is starting to kind of happen. But the bad thing is for us, those that thrive, everyone is doing it now. And now the burnout settles in, right? We have busted our behinds during these times. And now we're still busting our butts, maybe even more now, but we're getting less payout from it. Leah, tell me, how are these times affecting you? And how are you recouping from going from what you were making to now having to save every penny to make sure that we may go through another crash?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been, I don't want to say frugal, because I do treat myself from time to time. You know, I like buying rings, for example, one of the few vices I have. I like buying little things like that. But largely, I would just try and save as much as I could to ensure that I'm like, okay, now I know that I can, you know, I've got a couple of years buffer now where I can keep trying to make money, but if everything fails, then at least I've got 2 years to find a job, right? So that was always how I thought of things, was like, how can I secure at least a very, you know, average future for the next few years, just in case. So I've been saving since day one for that eventuality, because I mean, I started streaming and I was like, this is going to last a week. No one's going to care about me in a week's time. And I never anticipated to make a full-time living from it. Never mind over years. I always just assumed that, oh, well, in 3 months' time, you know, I won't be the flavor of the month anymore. I won't be making a living from this. So the fact that it's, God, I'm almost a decade on and I'm still making a living from content creation like this blows my mind. Same. So yeah, during COVID, I saw a big boom in money and in profits, and I was very careful with what I did with that. And now, last year, I lost all my sponsors. I have nothing anymore. Partly, you know, due to my own, whatever, like my own, I don't know what to say, behavior. I didn't do anything.
No, we get it. Yeah. Yeah,
I haven't got the passion and motivation to put a lot of effort into content creation the way it needs these days. So I just haven't, and obviously my channels have suffered a decline because of that. And I'm not sad about it, really.
I was going to say, it may have suffered a decline in the terms of numbers. Yeah. Excuse my French, shitty thing people look forward to. But how has it upped your love for it, though? You doing what you want to do now, has that transitioned?
Yeah, and this is the thing. I mean, I've always been a sort of lazier streamer in just that I stream the way I want to stream. Yeah. I play whatever game I want to play whenever I want to play it. Yeah, I mean, so many people put so much effort into their content to keep things entertaining, keep people coming back, finding new gimmicks constantly, utilizing new tech, and I just don't. That's lazy. You know, I could do more towards that. I could put more effort in to retain that kind of thing. But I just, like I said, you know, before with the conversation about success, I just... I will do this, and when it's no longer viable, I will stop doing it and move on. You know, I will just do what I enjoy doing about it and stop feeling like I have to grind. I have to do things a specific way because otherwise, you know, I'm not going to make enough money out of it. Like, if I'm not making enough money doing it the way I want to, then I don't want to do it. And that's the end of it. So now, I lost all my sponsors. I don't have any sponsors anymore. And last year I got to the point where I just felt so burned out on streaming, where I was like... I remember streaming one day and I played some Valorant and I just thought, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I'm not enjoying this. I'm forcing this. And it's obvious. And it's so obvious when you're forcing it. Yes. So I stopped. I took a few months off streaming entirely. And I started writing a book. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start writing a fiction book. So I've been doing that.
Okay, you're still doing that?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well on the way.
And you're gonna publish it and everything, huh?
100%. Yeah.
I love that for you.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just thought I'll go back to the basics. I'll go back to the building blocks. I'll start pursuing what is it I like doing? What do I want to do? What am I enjoying doing right now? And I afforded myself the privilege of doing that from saving for so many years and having the privilege to be able to save.
You prepped. You prepped for it.
Yeah. Right. And maybe that won't work out either. And maybe, you know, whatever.
And the funny thing is what, Leah, you're okay with that because
exactly.
You're prepped for this.
Mentally 100% prepared for it. No, in fact, I know it's an eventuality. I'm like, well, eventually, I've always been prepared for everything to fail. Fail. I've always been prepared for, nothing to matter. So I'm like, well, I'm not sad about it. I'm happy because I've learned so much over these years that I can bring into whatever I do next. And whatever I do next, I can't predict. I couldn't predict 5 years ago what I was doing now. I couldn't predict 10 years ago what I was doing 5 years from then. I have no idea where my life's going to go. My life has been so wild, like every direction. I have no idea. So you just keep doing your best at doing your best, and then seeing where that goes you is my motto, at least.
Hot damn. Chat, you got to give it up. Like, this is, it makes me feel so good because I feel like me and you are the same person. We just hadn't had a chance to sit here and talk because I've been through that. I went through a complete rebrand, name change, everything, you name it. And I was working full time as a IT corporate tech, making decent money as a software engineer for mobile platforms. And, that sounds very, ooh, but it was,
Yeah,
I hated it. I hate doctors. Not when they operate on me. I just hate the demand that they have behind themselves and how they feel like they're God mode in certain situations. I didn't like how management was treating me, and it was just really bad, And I was like, I can't do this anymore. If I keep telling myself that I'll get out when I'm ready, I'll never be ready, because the ladder kept adding.
Exactly.
I said 50 grand, I can live on it. We'll stop. Did I stop there? No. It turned into 100.
The lifestyle creep. It's insane when you earn more money.
Yes.
I refuse to pay myself more than I do. I'm like, I live on a very average wage because I'm like, I don't want to creep.
Right.
I don't want to experience the luxury.
Yes, who cares? You don't take those materialistic things with you when your time comes.
No, I don't care about it.
But you know what?
I'll save cash.
Yes, you want to go to your eternal bed saying that I have done what I could do. At the end of the day, all that materialistic stuff is not even yours at the period. It belongs to whoever, I feel you on that. I can really feel you on that because, I was like 50K, I'll be good. Nope. 100K, I'll be good. Nope. 150, I say, I got to stop. It'll never be enough. And you know what? That money doesn't even exist for me. It's in a savings account. I don't touch that stuff. You know what I'm building that money for? For people that have it when I'm gone. It ain't for me. Because I don't spend it. I don't spend it. Like me and you having this conversation, this is why I work so hard. To be able to have great conversations with great people that are like-minded. That to me is the ultimate payout.
Because this is a culmination of everything you've done in your life. This is everything you've done, all the people you've met, every thing you've worked on for yourself throughout your life has led to this conversation, right? Like this moment. Right. And that's amazing. And that's what it's all about, really.
I feel so good right now, being alive, being able to speak to you, because we are of like mind. And I think that's a luxury people do not look into. When people hear luxury, they think about, again, beautiful cars, beautiful houses, materialistic things that can literally go in an instinct. But the lifelong connections you make and the trust that you can build with another person, that's priceless.
This is community.
Yes.
This is what life's about. Like,
this is why we can communicate.
Exactly.
Is to have a social interaction. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about some of the things that you're damn good at. You're damn good at TTRPGs. When the hell did that become a thing for you? Especially because in America, TTRPGs are looked at as like, was a bunch of neckbeards down in the basement. Me and Wack had a talk about that not too long ago. How did you get into it, and why is it so fun for you?
Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons is nerds.
Yeah, them damn nerds.
Goddamn nerds. So I credit it all to my friend Sol, one of my mods on my channel. She invited me to a campaign. She was like, someone dropped out of a campaign I was running. I was planning to run. I was wondering if, you said you were interested in maybe doing some D&D. Would you be interested in maybe jumping in and learning as we go? And I was like, yeah, go on then. And that was like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago now. That campaign's still going, by the way. I had to bow out last year because I had to drop. I was like, there's too much commitment going on for me right now. I had to unfortunately bow out of it. But
this is a relationship at this point.
I know, it's a very long-term commitment. And Sol and the other friends I've had there, a few people from my community, Gorn, Elise, Jay Wynn, and gosh, what's her name? I want to call her Raven because that's her character's name.
That person.
They were all instrumental in getting me into it. So that was my first sort of role-playing experience. I just played a little bard, a little Yonti bard, and I got to be really annoying about it. And I was, I was a pain in the ass. I was an asshole in the campaign. but it was fun, and I love making people laugh.
I was a pain in the ass of the campaign, but it was fun.
Yeah, well, see,
I love it.
I've always, I feel like it's a skill to be a pain in the ass in a fun way, because it's really easy to be a pain in the ass in a
bad way.
really selfish way.
Yes.
Yeah. So my goal was always like, how can I make people laugh? Because making people laugh is my favorite thing in the world.
Yes.
So I that's kind of my goal for the first few sessions, was like, how can I make everyone laugh in the context of D&D? So yeah, I was in that campaign for a very long time, every Sunday for like 5 hours a night. And
wow, 5 hours.
Very long.
Holy
My attention
moly.
span cannot handle it.
8 nights?
For every Sunday, yeah.
Oh, every Sunday, okay.
Every Sunday.
I was supposed to say, oh my God.
And then I got asked to do some stuff with Magic the Gathering, not Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast.
Yes.
They had a D&D thing they were putting together, so they asked me to play a one-shot character, so I did.
Wow.
And then I started I ran my own one-shot. We started doing some community one-shots in my Discord. So we got like 4 or 5 DMs, and 20 people all signed up, and we all just split them between each DM, and we had them run through like a 3-hour one-shot, which was really, really fun. So that was my first time DMing. And then I got involved in Tablestory, which was just a real stroke of chance.
How did that happen? How did you get involved with Tablestory?
So I knew Fairlight Excalibur through streaming. I don't even recall how we met, really. We met at a convention a long time ago, but
let me back you up real quick. How did you? I always think it's really funny because Jesse is interesting when it comes to meeting people, and he'll agree. So how did that happen? And don't lose your mind frame on. I got you right here. But go ahead. How did that meeting go?
It was. I remember precisely what happened. It was Long Beach TwitchCon. No, was it Long Beach? Yeah, Long Beach TwitchCon. 2017.
Yeah, the odd one. Yes.
Yeah, really the odd one. And I remember him DMing me, and he was like, "Oh, I'm here, by the way." And I was like, "Here?" And then I was like, "We're at the merch stand right there," and I can picture it in my head so vividly. We're at the merch stand, and I remember him being there, and I was like, "Oh, well, I mean, he's here. I should say hi to him." Like, he'd been really awesome to me for. I can't even remember how we met in the streaming world. I think he just came into my stream one day, and I was like, "Oh, hi." No idea. Like, he's a huge streamer. I had no idea. He was just very nice. And then, we met outside the merch tent, and we had a brief hug. And I'm a very awkward person, so I was like, "Well, it's lovely to meet you. Bye." And that was it. We were hug. Goodbye. The end. Which I think, to be honest, probably suits us both very well.
Yeah. That's why I'm laughing, because I was like, he was okay with that. Believe me.
100%. And that's how a lot of my friendships happen, which is just, I don't mean to be rude by any means whatsoever, but I know I'm very, I don't know, hyperactive, probably seeming, like on camera. I'm very, larger than life. But
big personality.
Yeah, and in a social situation, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. And I panic, and I prefer to just leave with a good impression, which is 2 minutes of, "Hello, how you doing?"
Yeah, I was going to say immediately.
Goodbye.
I think she hates me. No, she likes you. If she sticks around, she hates you.
Literally, yeah. Otherwise, it gets to that 5-minute point where you've spoken about everything polite, and then you're like, "So now what?"
Yeah, it's okay to leave. Yeah, okay. So he got you into Tablestory.
Yeah, so so Brad was like, "I'm looking for another player for Mistlight," and Fairlight DM'd me, and he goes, "Hey, do you play D&D?" And I was like, "Yeah, I play a little bit. Like, I kind of know a little bit about it." And he was like, "Oh, my friend's looking for a player for his new campaign," and I was like, "Oh, okay, sure. I mean, I can give it a go. I'd love to, but also I will probably be terrible. So if you want, please do. We'll have a meeting about it at least."
Yeah.
Next day, he gets me in a call with Brad and himself, and we talk about D&D. And it's so mad to me now, because I feel like that just wouldn't happen.
Wait, is that the first time you met Brad?
I'd never met. Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever met
you could
him.
never tell from today that's how you guys met.
Oh yeah, we're like best friends now.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy to me. So it's all thanks to Fairlight. Fairlight basically got me the friends I have now, which is all the Tablestory crew. And I feel, I don't really get emotional that often, but I feel like a part of me does. If I get emotional about anything, it's that like series of events that got me to all these new friends I have. So, yeah.
Yeah, we love you. You're an incredible person, and we protect our own very, very, We're very, 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 I would say overprotective of our own, but it's a reason why we're all family here. I think we all find some kind of solace in this very beautiful house that we have built over the years. 100%. And it's very nice to say we built it. You know, it's very nice. That's awesome. So you're in Miss Light, you're in tabletop D&D, and did your love grow from there, or are you just kind of like? Oh
God, Miss Light was like a gateway drug. I mean, again, I loved the character I have in the other campaign. She was called Zidzi. She was insane. And then, you know, Brad was like, I'm making this horror kind of campaign, and I was like, oh my God, that's fascinating. And also, I don't think I'm going to do this justice. Can I do this properly? And I made the worst mistake I could possibly have made, which was, as Miss Light started, I started watching Gone. And I'm like,
oh no.
I'm watching Gone, and I'm like,
oh no.
What have I got myself into? These people are amazing.
These are actors. What the hell?
So I made this character from Miss Light, where I wanted her to be, you know, a fairly complex character. Yeah. And I realized I learned a lot from playing that character, because it's hard to make a complex character that actually gets you get justice done to them, because
yes.
You know, you've got a story to go through, and who cares about your character's backstory? If you're not dropping good enough hints, no one's going to care enough to ask. And so I learned a lot from playing that character, and I loved them. Like, I felt so attached to them. I spent most of my spare time. I have a full, you know, real journal that I wrote in their perspective. I've still got it in my drawer.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I obsessed over them for ages, because I had a full gauntlet. Like, I bought a pair of gauntlets.
I saw the gauntlet. I was very impressed with it. Yeah.
And it was so weird. For me, that was a real challenge, because I played this character, this Miss Light character, and they were such a departure from me. Like, I'm sure anybody who watches Tablestory, I was a newcomer, and I was so aware of the fact that I was a newcomer, and so afraid to, you know, everybody knew each other, and I was just like, oh my God, like I really don't want to mess this up for anyone. I'm so terrified. So I was absolutely horrified. I was so scared to mess it up. And I made a character that was a little standoffish and stuff. And I think, like I say, now you'd look at me, anybody who's watched Tablestory, and you're like, oh yeah, that character's nothing like you whatsoever. But because that was my first show, you have no idea. You don't know who I am. You have no idea, you know, what the character is compared to me. So for me, that was a real challenge. Like, that character was so tricky to play, and it was my first time ever playing on a show, ever role playing in that kind of environment. I was just, it took me a few, you know, shows to start feeling comfortable, but I don't know, those, you know, Brad campaigns, do you ever really feel comfortable? Not really.
He has a way of throwing a wrench in everything, so.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know,
so yeah,
master of his craft. Let's just so say.
Streaming, presenting, it definitely helped me. Like, as I say, I always loved performing, always loved the idea of acting. So it really, it's such a joy to be able to really jump into that in an improv style.
Yes.
So cool.
It's the one thing that I can be proud of going through theater school, is that improv was my thing. If I had to make something up on the fly, easy. If I had to read a script, oh gosh, give me a moment. Table reads, I'm like,
I want to say as well, so as I'm starting this, like, Rime of the Frost Maiden was, I think, quite well on the way by that point. And I remember tuning into Rime of the Frost Maiden, seeing you and Aaron against each other, Cord as well. This was before he, I think just around when he permed his first character. Spoilers.
Yeah, that was rough. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't keep up with the story, but I watched a few episodes and I was like, oh my God, like, these guys are insane. Like, they're putting so much in. It was so inspiring. It was, and I watched you all, like, devoured everything. I was like,
thank you so much.
Trying to learn from everybody, like, what's acceptable. Because that's the big problem for me, is learning, like, the rules of a social environment enough to feel comfortable, then understanding how to act.
Yes.
So with Tablestory shows, that's always been a huge issue. And playing in Kingmakers with PB it's a sandbox, and that is my, like, kryptonite. I don't know how to behave in a sandbox. I'm like, there are no rules that I understand I can break. There are no rules that I understand that I have to abide by, and therefore it's my worst nightmare. It's been the same with Wild RP. Like, any situation in which I am left to my own devices, I'm scared, because it just takes me so long to feel comfortable in any way. So yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, you know, improv and being able to lead. So I will tell you an advice, and everyone can take this advice in the real world. What my acting coach now is on everything. But I'll tell you something. I did my first theater class. I'm not gonna say her name just for protection's sakes, but she was on like General Hospital, like these old school soap operas that have gone for many. I mean, I think it's still going on, honestly. And she told me, she said, what makes you an actor is not your acting skills and not how you professionally can produce whatever character you're putting out. It's the crew around you. It's your supporting cast that really defines who you are. So when you go into these events where you feel like, oh my God, I'm on a show with this person. Oh my goodness, am I going to be good enough? If you have a cast that really cares, your friends, your family of Tablestory, they will carry you in to make you feel more comfortable to be able to expose yourself. And then you can learn from it. You know, and that's how it works in Tablestory. And I think that's a big craft on Wax, Steven, PB, and Brad, that when they cast these shows, they're really thinking about who has that chemistry to be able to. You don't want to put 3 leads on the show. It's just not going to work. They'll be over talking to each other every. They can be the best actors in the world. But if you don't have a great support cast, like Dan, Domestic Dan is very good lead and support. He can do both. Yeah. Those were what defined you.
Not everyone can be a main character, and that's a huge thing I learned through experience with Tablestory. And in fact, it was really funny to me that I made Vega in Kingmakers to be a support character. She was just supposed to be supporting Leah, and she ended up just through the organic roleplay, and I felt really guilty about it. She ended up being kind of a main character, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't want that to happen. I didn't plan for it.
That's okay sometimes. And sometimes the narrative pushes for that. It's not even something you can control. So it depends on where the director takes it. That's why they're called directors. They direct you in that way. So I think it's great. And seeing you grow as an actor has been great. I loved your character in Miss Light. You were my favorite. My favorite character in Miss Light, hands down.
I always felt like the worst, and that will always continue. I always feel like the weakest member of any cast I've been in. I constantly watch everyone else, and I'm like, you know, we were in Root together, and I remember watching Luxie and being like, oh yeah, God, she's in a league of her own.
She's a lead.
Insane. Yeah, she's fantastic. Yep. And like seeing the power that you bring to every single cast, and I'm just like, it's nuts to me how every time in Miss Light I felt like the worst character. I felt so annoying.
Oh, you are a powerful standpoint. You were very much known, seen. That character was great, and I don't think you should let go of that character, honestly.
I never will.
Yeah, I think you did fantastic, and sometimes being in awkward situations brings out the best of us. So speaking of which, I'm guessing that's the first time you really start delving into RP, which, I mean, the RP has a bad thing on itself. A lot of people think RP, they think very weird things and then very negative things, right? Yeah, it was like RP. No, not that one. Or they're just like, RP, that's not the acting. It is. I mean, at the end of the day, you're placing yourself in a embodiment of something that you've created, and you have to be that character. How does that help you? Did that help you cope with a lot of things in your life? Like, even though you didn't pour yourself into certain characters, do you find yourself saying, you know what? I could look at things a lot differently now because I was able to be in a safe space and put myself in that position I normally don't put myself in.
God, I can't even begin to describe how much RP helped me in every aspect of my life. And it's nuts. I remember talking to my therapist about it, about how when I was doing a lot of wild RP back when I first started, and it's like Red Dead Redemption roleplay. I just remember talking to her about how I felt such a safe space to explore reactions, because I'm a people pleaser, like down to my core. I'm such a people pleaser, and I was so scared of disappointing people and hurting people, and RP, it didn't make it easier. It wasn't an instant solution to that or anything. But, you know, I was able to safely explore conflicts with people I trusted. And I did. And then I explored that with like PB, with Aaron, with people I was role-playing alongside in Wild RP. And I got to explore those conflicts and do it in a place where I knew afterwards I could be like, you don't hate me, do you? Like, we can talk through this, can't we? So it was so useful for me in that regard to feel so much like stronger about my own sense of self as well, because, you know, you're playing a character with their own opinions, and you're going to be coming up against characters that are completely, you know, diametric worldview. They're going to think completely differently to you. They're going to have such wildly different opinions, and it doesn't make your character any less valid. It doesn't make them any less a part of the world, any less important. And that's so silly to me, but that helped me realize my place in the world in a weird way. Like, you're allowed to have your opinions. You're allowed to think about things the way you do.
You're allowed to have conflict too.
Exactly, and you're allowed to exist the way you exist, and you're not invalidated by. And I hate that word because it is such a therapy. Like you're valid, you're done invalidate yourself.
Right.
But like it did allow me to feel like validated in just allowing myself to exist and not feeling constant guilt about trying to people please all the time.
Yes.
So there was that, and then there was also the fact that through roleplay, you have to be very considered with the way you talk. And I know you probably now. I feel like I'm a lot more eloquent than I used to be, certainly.
Oh, really?
And roleplay was a massive thing for helping me with that, because you have to think ahead. In roleplay, you start stuttering or stumbling over your words, it ruins the cool scene. You want to be cool, you want to be badass or whatever. You can't do that if you're like and stressing so hard that you're forgetting the end of your sentence. Yeah. So I found that through roleplay, through really forcing myself to slow down, trying to slow my brain. I've got ADHD, so my brain is like a million miles an hour at the best of times. Right. But forcing myself to slow down and think about how I want to come across and really like it be intentional with my words, my phrasing, my mannerisms, that leaked into real life. And suddenly I was going into hosting jobs and I felt so much more confident and less like I was going to trip up on my words, because I felt like I had much better command over my own mind in that performance. So it was huge. Roleplay had a massive part to play in that.
Awesome. Being comfortable with the awkwardness is something that we can't really learn by someone telling us. You got to experience that. And I've had a couple of roleplay scenes with you. I'm not the biggest wild RPer, just because I got thrown into the loop and tried it. It's interesting to hear, the voice of the person. You're just like, okay, all right.
I feel comfortable.
Yeah, I'm all right with having this conversation. I'm okay with putting my character next to their character.
And I'm okay with having a conflict with them as well, because I know.
Yes. And we can have those talks, right? Like if there's a bleed. Bleed happens all the time. It's funny how you brought up Rhyme of the Frost Maiden. People hated my character in Rhyme of the Frost Maiden in the beginning. They hated him because I played him to the T. I'm a trained actor, so I do my research. I add layers. And I'm not going to make a character just be lovable for all the time. He was a very sheltered high elf, and he had very weird and awkward opinions that only sheltered high elves would have. And, racism, I guess you could say, played a role in that, but I didn't make it a standpoint. But people hated him. And then it started bleeding over to hating me, right? So when it comes to RP, having those moments where you do have conflict, I've been there for some of your heavier conflict. How do you do with it? Do you take a moment? Do you decompress with the person, or you just have to remind yourself? Have you find yourselves having to mute and say, that felt a little bleed. I need to make sure we're okay. Unmute. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. How do you deal with those situations?
Maya has actually been an interesting anchor for that, because Maya is so blasé. If you ever role played with Maya, you know that he always said to me, like, it's like he just is an out of body experience when he role plays, and he does. He just role plays and then he just lets go of it, and that's it.
He shoots from the hip a lot of times too. So it's just like,
he does.
Right.
Maya is insane at improv role plays, and you will only, I think, see the full extent of that in Wild RP. I feel like it's a lot harder to see it on Tablestory stuff, but it's nuts.
He's definitely a lot more reserved on shows. I wish he would let go.
I know. I wish Maya allowed himself to be a main character on Tablestory shows, because he has everything for it.
Maya, god dang it! I'm telling you right now, dude. If you don't open up during this damn cure, I'm gonna. Anyway, I've been wanting to say it. Thank you. There's the bleed.
But yeah, I mean, I had a large conflict last night, right, on Wild RP, where I trusted everybody there, and I'm playing a sheriff now on there, so it's a fairly high, it's a stress, high stakes character. You've got a lot riding on your roleplay and the example you're setting, but I trusted the people I was going against for that entire thing, and I knew that I could be hard. I knew that I could say harsh things. They could say harsh things to me, and none of it was personal.
Right.
Not a single part of it felt out of character, and I was like, I can go with this. I can yell. I can do whatever and feel so comfortable knowing that you'll pick the ball up. And that's the big thing, is trust. If you can trust the person you're with, you can go so far with them and not feel bad. Me and PB, our characters seem to be at loggerheads like half the time. I don't know how it keeps happening. But and I always feel bad. I'm like, sometimes I do DM afterwards, and I'm like, I'm so sorry about my character. I'm so sorry about this. And I'll reach out to people and make sure everything's okay, and make sure there is no dramas or conflicts, because it happens sometimes. And sometimes trust is a really, nebulous thing.
Yeah.
You can feel like you trust somebody and realize halfway through a scene you don't trust them anymore. So it's all about building that trust, and I've really through Wild RP developed a bunch of people I do trust. But yeah, I mean, even in Mistlight, Fairlight and I butted heads massively during Mistlight. Like, we had some real tense scenes.
Yeah.
It was very it's funny because it's so easy to separate yourself when you have such a strong sense of character.
Yes.
And this is the number one thing you can do, is making sure your character is just so separate from you. Because, during Mistlight, there were points where I felt emotionally drained because we had a big bust up and I was like, oh man, that was exhausting to try and navigate.
Yes.
But when you've separated your character from yourself, it's really easy to not take things personally because you're not making a reactive decision. You're not thinking about you and how you feel about it. I mean, and it's tiring because you're going through this layer, this filter of, okay, so what does the character think about it? And then how does the character react to that thought? Because, not necessarily the same way, right? So, and when you go through those layers, it's, even if someone is like, well, you're stupid and that's a stupid decision, that can hurt because you're like, oh, but I made a bad choice and you're calling me stupid. But when you're just going through the layer of a character, you're like, well, if I was in that position, I might have chosen to do something different. But this character isn't. And, and that's why in Cura, I've played Jildan. I played Jildan.
Yeah.
She's very annoying. And I've made her quite a strong character because I know she's going to make some choices that are going to piss people off.
Yeah.
I mean, and I try to make those in a sympathetic way so that, it's easy with a small cast because they're all my friends. They know if I make a decision.
The trust is already there.
They implicitly trust me to make sure it's an RP decision and know that it's for development for something and they can run with it and punish me however they want, and I don't mind at all. I fully expect there to be consequences for things. So that's exciting to me because I know that I've made a strong character, and there's always be this little spark in me when I know that I've made a strong character that holds up on their own without me having to be a base for them. So Vega was hard for me in that regard because because I made her to be a support character, she wasn't a strong character in a lot of ways. She was very based on my own reactions and stuff, so she was a harder one for me to play.
Okay, so Vega would be the one that you probably bled in your personal experiences of your life into the most.
Yeah, but because it was such a fantasy setting, there really wasn't much it was more, I suppose, if people disliked a decision the character had made, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I was just trying to do it for the right reasons.
The victim of the right reasons.
Yes, for the greater good.
Yeah, that is definitely the hardest lesson to be learned when creating a character. It's okay to be your own and do your own thing. I'm really excited for your next character because I think talking about this really will settle in your mind. You'll probably remember these conversations when you meet these characters. Feel free to cut loose. I want to see Leah cut loose. I haven't really seen that yet. I think you play careful a lot of times. Even in your characters in Wild RP, when I do get time to watch and listen, I can hear you on the fringe of it. You kind of cut back a little bit, because we have those natural human instincts where we have to worry about what the other person's going to think or feel afterwards. We're always worrying about that, putting them before us, type thing. But one day, whenever you get the galls, I want to really feel the cut loose, and I hope I'm there for it. I hope we're on the same cast for it. It's going to be great to see. Hopefully
I'll feel the ability to do that. I do tend to make support characters even in Wild RP. I try and make support characters because I just feel comfortable. I am a right-hand man.
There's nothing wrong with that. There is a reason why there's an award for best supporting actor.
Exactly.
And those actors make the main characters so much better. And it's not a role being a lead in acting. I remember in theater, when I was in high school, going into theater, there was a guy named Daniel at the time, and he was always the lead role. And Midsummer Night's Dream was coming up. It was a huge play, and I was like, I'm going to be the lead role. And he's just like, good luck with that, and I was like, well, you got to leave sometimes, So I busted my butt to, become the lead role in the next years, and I've done it. But I realized that you cannot carry a whole show on your back alone. You can't.
And it's so obvious when you don't have the support of people behind you.
Yes.
Same in real life. It's so obvious when you feel adrift, you're on your island.
Yes.
It's insane.
You're only as strong as the company you keep. And at the end of the day, hey, you know, that's why I love Tablestory so much.
And you gotta build. You're in a team. The better you are, the better you support the people, the better the outcome will be every single time. So.
Yep, absolutely. With Wild RP and Tablestory and creating these characters, you kind of touched on this a little bit. Has that helped you grow in life? Have you looked on life at a different perspective because you were able to, you know, assess it and throw it into situations that aren't real, but real at the same time?
I certainly developed my acting ability a ton. So being able to understand when I need to, I'm much better at just acting in real life when I'm uncomfortable, when something's not really, I stop panicking, I stop being, you know, the awkward, like, people pleaser. I'd be like, oh my God, no, you know, whatever I can do to help, like, I'll try to help. And now I'm much better at just calming down and playing what I want to be. It's like a sort of meditative, like, projection almost, like you are manifesting who you want to be. So there's like a level of, I went through for a while, imagining a character that was me but better, right? Who do I want to be in 10 years time? And I would imagine them, and I'm like sat there thinking, what would they embody? What do they do? What are their mannerisms? How do they act? How do they talk? And you don't want it to be like a totally different person, because you have to work on you. You're the basis for it, so you got to be realistic with it. But that process is so helpful, because then you start applying that to real life, and you know, perhaps your mannerisms will slowly and steadily start changing to be where you want to be. And you know, there's a lot of introspection that has to go into that. Make sure you're doing that for the right reasons, and not because it's, you know, born out of self-hatred, but because it's born out of you wanting to be, you know, a better version of yourself or whatever reason. But yeah, the roleplay helped with that a lot, because that's what half of roleplay in D&D, in, you know, online roleplay, half of it is just planning. Half of it is planning a character. It's research. It's learning about. I mean, God, I mean, on a slightly different tangent, but like the things I've learned through my characters in roleplay, I've then taken on to real life, and then been like, this is an actual. I started writing poetry. I don't write poetry. I started writing poetry for a character recently, and realized, oh, this is kind of fun actually. I'm kind of not terrible at this. I'll keep writing some poems.
Love it.
And a lot of the concepts that I took for my book that I'm writing came from research I was doing for a character, where I was like, damn, this is sick. I started applying them in subtle ways. So yeah.
I'm such a huge fan of yours. This has been so, I'm just like, oh, I wish we would have talked so much earlier. God, it's like your ideals, the way you go about life, it's that you have sparked that young version of myself inside of me that I shut off for so long.
No, let it out.
Yeah, because you know, you have society dictates how you should be in this world so much. It's so annoying.
Why? What's the point?
Yeah.
Why?
It's like a man can't be emotional. A man needs to be hard, hunt, alpha man. And I'm just like, okay. You know what? If I gotta go out there and throw a spear at a squirrel, I'll do it. But at the end of the day, I just want to be emotional. All right, let me cry once in a while. If I keep this pent up, I'm going to explode, and then it's going to be too late, right?
You're just a modern day bard. You know?
Yeah.
Back in the day, we had bards. Why can't you? Why can't you be that person?
Can we break the mold for once, you know, and throw society's stereotypical thoughts away? Speaking of which, being a lovely woman in this whole industry, there's a lot of controversy going back and forth saying women have it easy. If you got boobies, you can make it happen. If you got a pretty face, you can make it happen.
Noobs.
Yeah, noobs, right? Like they don't really know the struggle. So what has been your most tough obstacle to overcome as a woman in such a very unpredictable industry?
Probably one of two things. One, sexism is subtle. It's not always going to be overtly, well, you're a woman, so you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
It's going to be being cut off when you're not finished speaking. It's going to be being talked over and expected to stop talking before they do, because they've started talking at the same time and they're the man. You know, and it's stuff like that it's not life ruining, like per se, but it will really push down your confidence over and over again when you're undermined consistently in really subtle ways that you can't really complain about. Because, you know, a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people won't see it unless they're looking for it or when they've noticed it. And that's tough to get over, because a lot of the time, you know, you have to remember that whatever you've done in your life experience is just as valid as the next person.
Exactly.
You know, we're in a world where women have the same experiences growing up now, and they're afforded the same opportunities as men. Therefore, the perspective is just as valid as any man's. So there is, of course, you know, it's far less overt. It's a lot more subtle these days, but that subtlety makes it harder to point out and harder to identify why you're feeling a little bit uneasy about something. And it's often not because the person intends it to be sexist in any way. It's just a real crazily deep ingrained thing. And you even, like myself, like, and I don't like talking about it because I'm not like I'm not somebody who talks about this kind of thing very often. I'm not somebody that's often talking loudly about feminism or a lot of social issues, but certainly it's there. And I feel like because I don't talk about it, people assume that, like, I hate that they're like, oh, well, she's one of the good ones, you know, that doesn't preach about feminism. And I'm like, well, that's because I'm trying to subtly teach you respect in a different way without you immediately shutting down and going, oh, stupid feminist, I don't care what you have to say. So my goal, through a lot of my career in gaming at least, I've always taken that route of being just existing, you know, and that's very controversial in itself because for a lot of people, that's not enough. You need to be loud. You need to be very outspoken.
It's never enough.
Yeah. You got to be outspoken. You have to be loud about things. You need to talk about them for people to understand them. But there is, you know, there's a reason strong female figures are so important. And that's because they are just there. They inspire people by just simply existing and simply being afforded the ability to exist.
Actions over words.
Afforded, exactly. And I've been afforded so much privilege to just exist in this space. And therefore, I'd like to, my way of utilizing that is just by proving that I can do it over and over again. And I hope and try not to let those subtle things let you down. The other thing is, most of the time when I do any sort of I don't know, talk, any panel, the conversation is nearly always, so how does it feel about being a woman in gaming? How do you feel? What's it like being a woman? What have you experienced? And it's just really one-dimensional, like, because that oftentimes that is like a huge chunk of the conversation. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about that because quite frankly, like, I mean, God, when I started streaming, I used to get comments all the time. Go back to the kitchen woman. And there are obviously things that are ingrained in internet culture that are hypocrisies. You know, women are subjected to crazy standards over certain things that men just aren't. And that's not going to go away anytime soon. And shouting about it louder often just means that people go, oh, that upsets you. Well, guess
do
what?
it more.
Yeah,
that's the industry now.
Streisand effect, So it's a really weird one to talk about. I find you've got to be quite careful with it.
I appreciate you even answering. There's a reason why I always hit it up, because we're in such a weird room when it comes to RP and like acting and all this stuff, where women are very much seen, but do people feel like they belong? And like knowing, like seeing where you came from and all these things that you've done, honestly, is inspiring to so many women out there that feel like they don't have a place in. So thank you for answering the question. I know that's
another thing as well that I just, something that is in my mind constantly is that one study, and I don't remember who it was by, but it was talking about in a conversation with 5 men and 5 women, the percentage of time it was perceived in which women spoke, and the percentage of time it was perceived that men spoke, and nearly always the percentage of time people assumed women in that conversation spoke was always far higher than the reality. Because for some reason, there was an assumption that women were taking up more space. You know, they were talking more. And often it was actually the men that were speaking more, but for some reason, their perception was that the women were. And that was fascinating to me always, especially in roleplay scenes and things like that, because there is, that's a really subtle thing that you would never think about. Because how are you ever supposed to quantify that? How are you ever supposed to be able to really count that yourself, you know, and have the introspection to think like about that ever? So I don't know, I think about that. It's in the back of my mind often, actually, of like how many of those strange tiny little things will be influencing people's opinions when they send a random hate comment like, Jordan's so annoying. Man, I wish Jordan had just shut up. I'm like, I wonder how much of that weird little subtle psychological thing is affecting your thought right now. And therefore, for me, your criticism isn't valid.
Exactly.
It's probably really a strange set of biases that you don't even understand yourself. Yeah,
and a lot of times people are self-trigger themselves in their instincts because they're dealing with whatever. They just throw it on someone because they want to. So that's a big reason why I asked that question, because I was like, in role play, I've seen the comments.
Mm-hmm.
They're not always pretty. Hell, most of the time, especially when you make a character that's very layered and very good, that often provides conflict because they are looking at it in the perspective deeper than the shallow stuff. People tend to hate that, but love it at the same time, right? But
you see with PB. PB's not afraid to do it at all. I mean, recently, the Blade Runner show, right? Like, I've been just reading some of that with Speth, right? Who does the pretty divisive character right now.
Very like, she has a lot of debate and conflict, which is amazing because I don't see elves like that.
I respect it so much. I love it. It's amazing. Awesome. And there's also the perspective of, like, you know, for a lot of guys, they just care about your face. And it's so horrific that that's still the case. But, like, most of the comments, they won't be about your character. They won't be about the carefully crafted backstory, the subtle hints you're dropping for whatever's going on in their head. No, it's, oh, they look weird today. What's going on with their face? Why do they look like that? Like, it's just so.
Those comments still happen today. It's like, oh, she's pretty. Okay, but what about the character?
Yeah. You know? What about the acting, the performance, the character? Like,
it's okay. We're breaking molds here, Leah. You are breaking molds. You have. I've watched you on the thing that we worked together that we didn't directly work together on was Dying Light. We both did different things, but we were on the same project with the same team. And seeing you live and just living in the moment and just, you are a tigress. You know, you attacked your role. You did. That was a hard thing to do, to stand up there and talking about that game during that time, where a lot of people knew about Dying Light, don't know about Dying Light, you know, and you like really up there. And it was very inspirational. And I told myself, you know what? It feels good to see her thrive and to know that I know she's in the same space as I am and that she's enjoying RP. I honestly did not know that Miss Light was your first show. So if that says anything, no, I did not. You did not show it. There's some people that have done RP and there's some people that have acted for years that still can't bring that fire, you know, to the group. They think they do. And I think being very, it's very hard because you got to break down that bridge. And maybe that's why me and you vibe so well, is that we're overly humble. You know, a little too humble. And some people literally, I've been told so many times that you need to learn how to take a damn compliment. Okay, it goes a long way. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And go home like, no.
America's got such a different culture as well. Like in the UK, being reserved is pretty normal. Like it's a level of reservation is so just culturally acceptable. In America, everything's crazy exuberant. Like it feels like everybody is about twice the level of energy.
Extra is what we like to call it.
Yeah, you're all so extra. You guys are so extra. Yeah. And it's really cool because you know, to be reserved from an American perspective is super interesting. I think it's a very different experience.
It is. You know, growing up as a mixed child, predominantly Black, and like my mom being Asian and French Black, you know, humble is a part of our household. Like if someone says you are amazing, you're the best one out there. No. I was okay, but thank you so very much for your compliment. That's how, it'll drive Whack crazy. It'll drive PB crazy. Anytime I'm like, and anytime they try to call me, I'm like, you know, put the camera on them. Like, they ain't me. You know, I'm just here enjoying existing. But no, I want you to suck up all these compliments because, you know, I've learned so much about you today that makes me feel like I've known you for a very long time. Like, honestly, like, I'm just like, man, we were best friends before this because we think alike. And and I was telling this to Wack on the show last week when we had Wack Stevens on for episode 1 of season 2, that God dang, it feels good knowing you. And I really wish we'd known each other earlier, but you know what? I'm not going to discredit the time it took me to grow as a person, to be accepting and ready to take on who you are today.
That's how I like to think of it as well. Yeah. It's like maybe a few years ago, I wouldn't have been a good person to know. Like,
and we wouldn't have appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they were just, you know, just slipped on by. It's just maybe everything, you know, cliche. Everything happens for a reason at the right time. That's how I always think.
That's my life motto.
Yeah.
100%. Whether it's bad or good, because, you know, I used to be the one that, you know, you get a flat tire, you're like, God dang it, what just happened to me? Why? And then, you know, it was a book I was reading, or like maybe like a person was talking, like an inspiration speaker, saying that one day he was telling a story. I don't know if it's true. It was like you get a flat tire, and you're really upset. You're late for work. The world, everyone hates me. But in reality, if you would have gone 5 minutes, 10 minutes down the road, you could have gotten in a car accident.
Exactly. I always think about that all the time. Like, it's like, well, you know, I'm going through some stuff right now.
Yeah.
I bought this flat. I'm having to sell it. I'm annoyed about it. It's only been a few years. I was looking forward to putting roots down. I've never been able to put roots down ever in my life. But I'm like, well, maybe it's for a reason. It's got to be for a reason. And I'm okay with it. I'm not devastated. I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it did hurt, but like, yeah, well, okay. It's just on to the next thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever.
When you get there, hopefully flowers are born. And if not, the next opportunity will be there. That's incredible. That's incredible. Man, oh my God, I'm so happy we're having this talk. Growing up and like developing all these things, what's next for Leah? I know you don't really think about the tomorrow, so to speak, but where would you like to be? What are you working on right now? What's the goal that's really standing forefront for you?
So I am lucky enough to have an agent. I've had him in a little cage.
Yeah, it's been pocket.
I've been working with an agent for about 4 or 5 years now. He's been wonderful. He's been the best thing that could have happened
So
to me in
jealous.
terms of
I'm so jealous to hear I've had an agent. It was wonderful.
I got so lucky. I've had some bad agents as well. Some horrific agencies before have worked with me. But yes, I got very lucky with my agent Zach, and we've been working together a lot. Please help me.
Here we go. Working with for a while.
And he's been instrumental in pushing me. Like a lot of agents will just be like, well, whatever comes in with you, I'll capitalize on, and that's my job.
Damn.
No, my agency is very much, how can we help you? How can we push you to be the next level? How can we utilize what we've got, our connections, everything we've got to, get you where you should be? And he's believed in me, for every single year. And I spend, some months I'm like, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like I'm going to refuse this sponsorship offer because it doesn't align with what I want to promote, or I'm not bringing you any money.
How do you feel by
this
saying
month.
no? Do you feel good about that? Do you feel secure?
Horrific.
Shit.
I mean, yeah, it's horrendous. I feel so crap when I say no, especially because my agent's going to miss out on money. I need the money a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, well, it's scary, but I'd rather not promote this thing. I'd rather not promote a crypto thing for Adidas.
Yeah,
I just don't want to. I don't want to be associated with that.
Right.
So, I mean, and there are members of the community, like Dirk, for example, in my chat. Dirk, he's been there since almost day
who
one
is
of
this
my
guy,
stream.
Dirk? Huh? He's been
It's been in my
complimenting you this whole time. Who are you?
Literally since, one of the first weeks I ever started streaming, and he believed in me from the very start. He always said, like, I believe you're going to do great things. And he believed in me the whole time. And it's the same with my agent, Zach, and they've always been pushing me to and that inspires me. I'm like, you guys believed in me. So really, I feel like there's something, I need to work with it. I need to keep harnessing that whatever it was that got you to believe in me, I have to just keep pushing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm writing this book, and a delusional part of me, I believe, it's nothing like crazy original. It's a cyberpunk dystopia novel, but I am very proud of it, and I'm very proud of the plot line, and it's a trilogy, and I'm very excited. So for me, my current focus is writing that. I am
Love it.
about 2/3 of the way through the first book now. And I want to get that published hopefully by the end of the year, and I'm dreaming big. I'm dreaming delusional with it. I'm like, I think this could do really well. And
I think it can. I don't think that's delusional.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm like, this could do well. And maybe, I could talk to some game developers. We could do a Netflix series on it. Like, we could go big. Why not? So that's my current focus, is getting this book finished, out there, and feeling proud of it, and feeling like really happy with it. And then aside from that, I've been pitching some gaming shows. I want to continue presenting, and voice acting. I'm so desperate to get into voice acting. Yeah, I've been, I've got a reel, Wild RP has been insane for helping me develop that, because now I couldn't do a single accent when I joined Wild RP, and now I've got at least 5 or 6 accents that I can do fairly well, and I'm like, nice. So, I'm so desperate to get some voice roles at this point, just to like really get stuck into something.
Yeah.
And that's a very competitive scene, so all
everyone's
this stuff
doing
is very, everyone's doing it, yeah.
And the celebrities.
Oh boy,
yeah, let me tell you. But you can do it.
I believe they get pitched real easy.
Yeah.
So there's my main focus at the moment. I'm not looking forward too much to the future. For years I've been just saying I need a project I can just get stuck into. Like I need something I feel passionate about, that I wake up every morning excited to do some more work on. That's always the thing I struggled with streaming, because there just isn't that sense of like progress that you can get from it. There's no end. You stream, you wake up, you stream, and same with a lot of lower end jobs that I've worked in, like retail and stuff. There's no end to it. There's no sense of accomplishment ever, because your work never ends. So yeah, I've been looking always for projects that have a sense of accomplishment, have an ending, have like a I did that feeling. So that's what I've been trying to cultivate for myself. So writing a book is hard because you have to spend so much time on it. So like, God, the hours and hours and hours I've put into writing this, and it's a risk because it's like, could go nowhere, could make no money whatsoever. In fact, in all likelihood, that's probably what's going to happen. However, I'm going to keep manifesting that it's going to do really well because I want it to.
You're enjoying it. You're pouring yourself into it. And I think that's the first
payment. The process itself of writing it has been more than valuable. So, yeah.
Very good. You always can learn from those. Awesome.
Exactly.
Well, I want to take some time. We have about 10 minutes more of the show. I want to take some time talking about this book. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, I kind of want to write a book. It's another to actually do it, to put the first words down on the first sentence down on the page and be proud of it. So how long have you been writing this book?
I started writing it last August, and then I kind of it was a little trickle, a little bit here, a little bit there. It's kind of funny because my English teacher in high school, I loved writing. I did a lot of writing stuff, and I always got really good grades in English and whatever. And he always really believed in me. He was always really pushing me to like do more, like do more literature stuff. Like your essays are great. And I found out a few years ago that he passed away, and
oh my goodness,
he was a huge inspiration to me. He was a complete maverick teacher, like completely unlike any other teacher there. So Mr. Emmett, if you're up there, you've always been a massive inspiration to me. And I thought about that a lot because I never wrote anything. I didn't write. And again, this is so stupid. Wild RP. I started writing little flavor things, right? Like little, what was my character doing when I wasn't there? Obsession. Yeah, sure. Right. Completely valid criticism. I was slightly obsessed. But I started creatively writing, which I never usually did. And I started just putting, it was inspiring, right? Like I had a scenario, I had a character, and I just wrote a little something. And then I started writing for Fix, in Miss Light. And then I remember Brad asking me, like, you ever written, wanted to write a book before? And he started talking about, some ideas for how he's potentially writing a book and stuff.
Yeah.
And it just got me like thinking a lot. And I was like, man, writing just sounds really fun, like a really creative way of just letting loose and like doing whatever you want, crafting your own world, and I was writing things and thinking, this doesn't read half bad, actually. This is quite a fun idea. So then I got to the point where I just started writing like a paragraph, a completely random, whatever's on the top of my head. I look at something, a wall, an orange picture, and I'd be like, the creature crawling out of the orange picture, and talk about whatever that is. And I just write a full paragraph, a purpose of nothing, and then drop it. So then I started doing that, and every day I'd write like a random little segment to a completely different genre, sci-fi, fantasy, historical. I'd write like just completely random things, and then eventually I wrote one paragraph, and it was a woman being forcibly scanned for technology. And it suddenly in my head, it was like an entire world was just created. And I was like, oh my God, there's the story. I just thought of a whole world immediately unfolded in front of me with a full story, everything. The main character came to my head instantly. And I was like, oh my God, I need to write this down. And that was it. So I just started obsessively writing. So my method is horrific. It's the gardening method, apparently, which is where you just write. You just write and write and write whatever has inspired you. And then you got to go back and go, right, now what is contradictory? Now I've actually developed the idea and developed the world. How have I contradicted myself?
I think that's brilliant.
Go fix it. So I'm in that stage of fixing right now, which is taking a long time because it takes a lot of thought, a lot of prep. But yeah, I don't know. I've got a lot of passion for it. I feel so energized still, and I get hyper focuses. I focus on a hobby. I'll do music for a couple months. I'll do a drawing for a couple months. Whatever, animation. And then I drop it every time. I'll start doing things, I'll start making something, and then I lose all steam. And anyone who's been to my stream for a while knows that. And it's a horrible, I don't want to call it a habit, but it kind of is. It was just a real bummer to know that you have got so deep into a creative endeavor, but you just have no motivation to continue doing it anymore, no drive. This, I've been doing it for going on, 6-8 months or something. And I'm still really excited. I'm still like, I need to keep writing. I want to wake up and write.
That's so awesome. Do you have like a schedule or something, or you just kind of do it when it comes to you?
I need like a full hour and a half to get into the headspace for it. So that it's a bit of a limiting factor because I'm gonna have to set aside like 6 hours to be able to write enough to make it worthwhile. So then a lot of days are really bitty. You know, I'll have like a thing I've got to do at 4 p.m. and that means I can't write at all. It's really annoying. So yeah, I try and just take. My agent the other day, I went for a meeting with him, and he was like, "You need to go on like a writer's retreat or something for like a fortnight." And I was like, "I do." I need a cabin in the woods with no distractions, no internet, and you just go there and write for 2 weeks, and I'll get it done.
Why not?
When I went to New York last year, I got a lot written there because like when you're alone, jet lagged in a hotel room, airplanes, best thing ever. 11-hour flight. I'm writing on that whole trip. It's amazing. No distractions, nothing. I just get in the zone and I'm writing for the whole trip, and I love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm so excited and happy at the same time. Do you pour any of your characters into the story? Do you take any of those or any potential characters in the future that you want to kind of work out to see if they work in your book? Or are you thinking about having those in any Tablestory shows in the future?
I think certainly most of my characters are probably inspired somewhat by little personality bits. I'll take a little bit from this person, a little bit from that person, put them in. But they're all, I don't know, it's really weird. Something weird happens in my head sometimes where the characters there formed. And I don't really know how. I don't think it's pulled from anything. I can't like name a particular inspiration that it's come from, but they just exist. And I'm like, I know everything about this person. I know their mannerisms, how they look. It's all just instantly come to me. And that's, for me, I'm starting to take that as a sign, like that's meant to be. Like that's the character that's meant to be. So that just kept happening over and over. I was like, that's exactly who this character is. That's who this character is. And instant, no thoughts required, no research. So probably they were inspired by some Tablestory people, and I just subtly, right? Like,
that's awesome. That's really cool. I'm super excited. I'm sure. Let us know definitely whenever you do go through the publishing process, because I will 100% buy two. One that I will require a signature, and the second one for reading.
And of course, shout out to Aaron, our resident writer,
critically acclaimed New York bestseller. You know, so on and so forth.
He made me feel like I could do it. So do I.
Yeah, I got his book right over there. It's in my one there. Yeah. So definitely in my collections. I see it peeking out. Definitely in my collections. I love it. It's right over there, and then I got another copy of it. I have two of them. But yeah, it's great. It's great to see the creative juices flowing because you know, I think it's something that a lot of us kind of put to the side a little bit here. You know, it's just like, yeah, having a bad day, you know, being able to write. I do a lot of drawing more than writing, but I came out with a book a long time ago called Heavy Gauntlets, and it was meant to be a comic / manga. I'd say visual story, like novel at the end of the day. But I fell in love with audible books, you know, and I was just like, you know, when I got into voice acting, I was like, I'm so scared to do an audible book. I had one person did approach me to do it. I was like, well, no, because I got to interview Mark Thompson, who does a lot of Star Wars stuff, and I was like, so how are you in a cast getting along? He's like, I do all the voices, every last one of them. I'm like, what? In a Star Wars IP?
It's so like intimidating, right?
He's Thrawn. Yeah. He is Thrawn, and I'm like, dude, there's no way in hell I would touch that. He's like, that's the wrong attitude. And I was like, yeah, you want to see a bunch of pissed off Star Wars nerds? Nah. You know? He's like, you know, and he tells me the process, and I'm like, bro, no way. But I want to do it. I do. I was like, you know, if Aaron wants to have a book written, he needs some Audible, I'll do voiceover. If you want to, I'll do voiceover. For people that I'm caring about, that, you know, so, but no, it's an awesome thing to think about. And I think this is a great, this has been such a fantastic time. We got 2 more minutes of the show going on. I feel like I've been talking to you for 30 minutes. It's crazy.
I know, it's so flies.
It's so nuts. And she's like, not for me. I'm tired. We're going to be going late to this. You know, it's 5 hours ahead of me. It's like almost 11 o'clock for her. But at the end of the day, wow, so many life lessons. The world of Leah. You can still call her Leah, by the way, guys. But like I said, I got you.
But I will side eye you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hey, Leia's Leah, but whatever. My friends call me Leah. You can get them that way. Thank you so very much for being here today. I've learned so much. You just proven that you're the reason why I find you so inspiring. I mean, you know, all the life lessons, and it's really great to have, you know, just seeing you overcome things, and I'm sure you have your moments, okay? And I don't want people to think that I'm just putting like on a pedestal here. I know that's like always an overgapping thing. It's just like, are you just saying that? No. When I first saw her work, I was like, oh my God, okay, I got to step it up. Like, what the hell, you know? It's okay to be myself up there, you know? That's how I felt. 'Cause I was very newscasty and all the stuff that I've done. But it's great seeing you grow. It's great seeing you make life decisions and having that maturity to be able to say, you know what? It's okay that I made that decision. This is who I am and this is who I'm going to be. And I'm okay with that. It's fine. That's something that a lot of people cannot hold to themselves. And if you learned anything today, Storians, from that, please take that in. Now, as tradition, I have to be like, yeah, if we have all these traditions, my God, we do. That's what makes a show good, in my opinion. Yes. If you had to have any advice whatsoever to tell anybody out there or your younger self, what would it be?
Just do it. I know it's so cliche, but like there will never be a perfect time for anything ever in your life. And even if you feel like you need to learn more, you need to know more, just do it, because you're never gonna learn more and know more better than when you're just doing something. So just get on with whatever project you're trying to do. Let it be imperfect and let yourself grow and learn from your mistakes with that. There's no perfect ever.
Damn right. I say, take a risk. My one risk that I've ever taken in my whole entire life was to stop working for corporate and be my own boss. And here we are 4 years later tripling my income. Yeah, tripled my income that I had with them. And I got to sit there and get yelled at all day. Now I yell at myself. I'm my worst boss. You don't want me as a boss. Let me tell you, because I work way too much. 200 plus hours a month. It's stupid.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm going to work myself until I get wrinkles all over my face. But at the end of the day, Leah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Please tell everyone where to find you, where they can find your content, and anything that you ever want to shout out. Go for it.
Yeah, sure. I am on twitch.tv/Leah, just Leah, or you can find me at Sprite Leah for roleplay stuff from time to time. And I'm also on Instagram and all the usual places as Leah Viathan, which is just Leviathan, but with Leah at the beginning. Yeah, that is pretty much me. I do a podcast with Maya every Monday, which is a podcast on the gaming industry over on Maya's channel. And yes, it's been an absolute pleasure. I don't know where I'd be with that table story. It's been like being enveloped into a family. I cannot be more appreciative of that. So thank you.
Hey, like I said, this channel would not be what it is today if it wasn't for the people that has held it above. This is just a foundation, and we are the pillars, and you are one of those pillars. So please continue to be an amazing family member to us all. And we couldn't be here without you Storians. You Storians make it true and make it happen. Please, by all means, make sure if you're brand new to the channel to follow the channel here on Tablestory. And if you're watching on YouTube, come by Twitch and follow on Twitch. And if you are on YouTube and Twitch, please tell other people about Tablestory. We have a place where everyone is welcome to the table. Even if you are not into TTRPG storytelling, you don't feel like you're good enough, hell, there's always a spot for you at our table. Please come by, enjoy all the wonderful stories that are being told and those that are to be told. And with that, I am so sad. Yes.
Please support Tablestory. They are fantastic. They put so much work and effort into everything, and they deserve all of your love and everything. Please, that you could give them, views. If you can monetarily contribute them, please.
Yes, please.
It's my personal plea. They are fantastic and just deserve the world. And they would never tell you that ever. So.
Oh my gosh! Don't get me started. Please. We can have a whole show on how they don't. Listen, guys.
Yeah, 100%.
If you have a Prime game, I'm gonna say it. I'm leading the show. Me and Leah are leading the show. If you have a Prime Gaming sub, darn gone it, it will not go to waste. You'll love all the content you get here. If you can go to our store, our Tablestory store we have on Fourth Wall. There's so many great stories up there. There's green rooms that you can only see there that you don't want to miss. Deep thoughts on the characters and developments and all the stuff that we're doing there. And yes, I'm going to reiterate it and play another ad for you guys. It's a personal ad. It's not a Twitch ad, personal ad that you should definitely watch at the end of the show. And if you have any ideas, questions, comments, concerns, anything whatsoever, please make sure you visit our Discord, join our Discord. We don't need graphic designers, by the way. Join our Discord, real people, and have those real conversations, because everyone, we will make sure that you're welcome. Now, I would like to say while we ending, if you have any questions whatsoever for Leah, aka Leah, make sure that you go by the under the table, drop those questions. She will answer them when she feels like she has some time to do so, and then you might get way more than you got from the show. So please ask those questions. Do not be afraid. to ask those questions. And it's
Anything.
been, there you go, anything. It's been
Anything.
an absolute pleasure. You're such it's just an amazing character in life and on the scenes of RP and roleplay. And I wish you the absolute best. You know I'm here for you. Anytime you need anything whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me. And thank you so much for making this show such a wonderful, fast show. I went through a whole, that's the most I've ever drank of this. Yes, and I'm going to top it off. Okay.
Yeah,
that was to you. Cheers to you. You did? You went through that whole pint? Let's go.
Need to pee.
Okay, well, let me hurry it up so she can go do that. As always, be yourself, stick to yourself, guys, but also always, just go out there and do, as Leah says, take risk, safe risk, and make sure that you know that we got your back. So thank you so very much, Storians, for joining us for episode 2 of season 2 of Under the Table. We'll see you next week for our next guest. And I guess I can say this, it's gonna be orcish. So if you are if you're excited to see a super awkward person be on the camera, come for Orcish. I can say that because he's a great guy. Definitely come by. But until then, stick around. We have a little bit more announcements to go here and there. But until then, see you next time. And Leah, feel free to kick us off.
Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.
And here we go.
Hello there, welcome to Tablestory. I wanted to take a moment to let you know some other ways that you can support the channel, see some extra merchandise, and find some additional content that you might not be aware of. Merch.tablestory.tv is our official merchandise store and membership feed. Here you can see some of the merchandise for the channel and shows, like these hoodies, these hats, this very elegant pillow, and more. There's also some additional content available, things like session zeros and pre-show ready workshop episodes of our shows. We also have a series we call the Green Room, which are short post-show chats with the casts of our shows, recorded immediately after the episode airs live on Twitch. The Green Room content is available retroactively for any members at any level. However, there are additional elements and discounts for Storians that support at higher levels. You can also listen to all of your favorite Tablestory shows in audio podcast format on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. Please make sure to rate and subscribe to those too. It's incredibly helpful. Thank you. Lastly, if you miss any of the episodes live or you want to go back and watch previous series, all of our shows are available in playlists on YouTube, and every episode airs at noon Eastern the day after it airs live on Twitch. And thank you so much for watching and supporting Tablestory. We hope you enjoy the merch and the content as much as we enjoy making it.